Absolutely not. That is silly to even think and equate the two. One is human, the other is...
Is it true that you just...
The hearing was supposed to be Ilhan Omar's chance to restore her reputation and clear the air before the nation. But the atmosphere turned tense the moment she started talking. She spoke as if she were being unfairly targeted, but her tone came across as defensive rather than confident. Instead of offering honest answers, she seemed to sidestep the real issues. Lawmakers in the room grew uneasy, realizing she was losing control of her own message. What began as an opportunity to rebuild trust ended up becoming another setback, one that felt entirely of her own making.
Is anyone surprised that I am being targeted? Is anyone surprised that I am somehow deemed unworthy to speak about American foreign policy?
Omar's voice trembled as she tried to turn the tables on her critics, portraying herself once again as the victim of unfair treatment and prejudice. She spoke about being misunderstood, dismissed, and mistreated because of her identity, hoping emotion would win the audience back. But this time, the room stayed still. The empathy that once followed her words had faded into quiet skepticism. Her tone felt rehearsed, her story too repetitive to inspire belief. People weren't hearing strength or honesty, they were hearing avoidance. The familiar appeal to victimhood no longer carried the same weight it once did.
They see me as a powerful voice that needs to be silenced. Frankly, it is expected, because when you push power, power pushes back. Representation matters. Continuing to expand our ideas of who is American and who can partake in the American experiment is a good thing. There is an idea out there that I am not.
Then came the moment that changed everything, the point where Omar's defense finally fell apart. Lawmakers, tired of her emotional arguments, pushed back with direct and forceful words. One reminded her that being criticized isn't the same as being attacked, it's part of responsibility. Another pointed out that real leadership means confronting uncomfortable truths, not using identity as protection. The mood in the room turned sharply. Omar's calm faded, her voice grew tense, and it was obvious to everyone that she had lost control of the discussion entirely.
Saying President Obama is human, President Trump is not. Now, just last week, this congresswoman said President Obama is, quote, a pretty face who got away with murder. Let's bring in the senior writer for the Heritage Foundation, Kelsey Bolar. Latest reaction to this one, Kelsey?
Well, this is another example of Congresswoman Omar's freshman status, where she doesn't fully understand the implications of her rhetoric. She came out and very toughly criticized President Obama, and then, Politico came out with a report, and she claimed no.
Within just a few hours, Omar's defense had exploded across social media. Hashtags criticizing her dominated timelines, and users everywhere repeated the same message: she wasn't being silenced, she was avoiding responsibility. Comment sections filled up fast with tough opinions, viral clips, and edited moments that highlighted her contradictions. What she meant as an emotional appeal for fairness ended up backfiring online. To many viewers, it became clear evidence that she had grown disconnected from the very people she said she was standing up for.
As a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee, I've sat there and heard the representative actually spew anti-American rhetoric as well.
By that evening, every major news outlet had jumped on the story, replaying the footage again and again like a headline event. Commentators analyzed every detail, her tone, her wording, even the silence between her sentences, and most agreed that her plan had fallen apart right before everyone's eyes. What was supposed to calm the controversy only made it worse. Instead of regaining trust, she reinforced the very doubts her critics had raised. On every screen and in every discussion, the same conclusion was clear: the image she tried to protect had finally crumbled.
I've been saying that, Kelsey, because he said that the upper Midwest, in her district in Minnesota, has the largest Jewish community in the upper Midwest, that she could be a bridge between the two, and she's not.
Right, and it's not every day I agree with the New York Times, but I absolutely do in this case. He's making a very important point that her anti-Semitic remarks have made a conversation uniting both Muslim Americans and Jewish Americans.
Behind the scenes, the change in tone was impossible to miss. Democratic staffers quietly admitted that Omar was starting to feel more like a liability than a leader. The familiar displays of support had disappeared, replaced by uneasy silence. Lawmakers who once stood firmly by her side now kept their distance, avoiding public comments altogether. That silence said everything. Her influence within the party was slipping away. The voice that once carried strength and conviction now echoed in a room that no longer stood with her.
That I do not have objective decision making because of who I am, where I come from, and my perspective. But I reject that. We say there is nothing objective about policymaking. We all inject our perspective, our point of views, our lived experiences, and the voices of our constituents.
Meanwhile, conservative voices quickly seized the moment, using it as fuel for their own narrative. Major talk shows ran the footage repeatedly, presenting it as the downfall of Omar's long-running strategy of deflection and denial. They paired the latest clips with scenes from her earlier controversies, building a timeline that seemed to confirm a clear pattern. Across headlines and broadcasts, one message rang out: the public had run out of patience, and this moment marked the turning point where excuses no longer worked.
Of the Foreign Affairs Committee. It is not to co-sign the stated foreign policy of whatever administration is in power. It's about oversight. It's to critique and to advocate for a better path forward. But most importantly, it is to make the myth that American foreign policy is intrinsically moral a reality. So I will continue to speak up because representation matters. I will continue to speak up for little kids who wonder who's speaking up for them. I will continue to speak up for families around the world who are seeking justice.
Fact-checkers moved in almost immediately, and their findings were tough on Omar. Several respected outlets revealed that many of her claims about bias and unfair treatment didn't hold up under scrutiny. What was meant to be a sincere explanation instead exposed serious gaps and contradictions in her story. Observers couldn't help but note the irony: the longer she tried to defend herself, the more damage she caused. By the time the reports circulated, her credibility had taken a major hit, leaving her political standing in serious doubt.
The media is attacking me. That's not what I said. Come to find out, she releases the actual soundbite of what she told these reporters, and the reporters reported exactly what she said she did. So I think throughout all of this, including her anti-Semitic remarks, Ilhan Omar has been trying to play victim when she is a sitting member of Congress who should be responsible for her own rhetoric.
Here's New York Times columnist Thomas Friedman also criticizing Representative Omar. Watch.
By the end of the week, Omar's approval numbers plummeted, signaling a sharp decline in public confidence. Even among her base, frustration replaced loyalty as supporters voiced fatigue over constant controversy. Commentators noted that her once fiery image of resilience now appeared defensive and unstable. Online polls confirmed the shift. Voters no longer saw strength in her defiance, only exhaustion. What was meant to rebuild trust had instead exposed a reputation in free fall.
Those that are experiencing unjust wars, atrocities, ethnic cleansing, occupation, or displacement like I did, they are looking to the international community and the United States, asking for help. They look to us because the international community and the United States profess the values of protecting human rights and upholding international law. So we owe it to them not to make this a myth, but a reality. I didn't come to Congress to be silent. I came to Congress to be there.
When the dust finally settled, Ilhan Omar's so-called victim moment became a cautionary tale in political misjudgment. What was meant to spark empathy instead drained her credibility. Her critics grew louder, her allies fell silent, and the public saw through the performance. The episode underscored a brutal truth: emotion without accountability collapses under scrutiny. In the end, her attempt to control the narrative only cemented one reality: Victimhood may draw attention, but it never earns lasting respect.
The weight of her rhetoric as a sitting member of Congress when it comes to either criticism of President Obama or her anti-Semitic remarks.
You know, this is quite a story. We're going to be having you back on, Kelsey. I'm sorry we ran out of time. Kelsey Bolar, working with the Heritage Foundation. Great to have you on, Kelsey. Great to see you.
Thank you, Liz. Good
Come
to
back
see you.
soon.
In the days that followed, the media firestorm only deepened Omar's troubles. Liberal networks cautiously framed her comments as a misunderstanding, while conservative outlets dissected every word with relentless precision. But across the spectrum, a shared truth emerged: Omar no longer controlled the narrative. Each defense, each clarification, only reignited the outrage and reminded the nation why her words had sparked such backlash in the first place.
Representative Omar should be removed from this committee, but I feel like all the reasons have not just yet been stated, which is why I rise to add for the record. We've heard about the comments that were made regarding anti-Semitism and anti-Israeli views, but I rise to add to the record that as a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee, I've sat there and heard the representative actually spew anti-American rhetoric as well. I've been in that committee room where the representative equates Israel and the United States. The representative belittle to try to diminish the worst terrorist attack on United States soil on September 11, 2001, as some people did something. That is unacceptable as well. And I hold the same standard for this side of the aisle that I do the other, because when another colleague...
Old footage of Omar's past controversies flooded social media, clips of her remarks on Israel, her polarizing takes on U.S. policy, and moments of defiance that had once stirred outrage. Viewers drew connections, calling it a pattern of blame-shifting rather than accountability. Hashtags like #OwnYourWords and #AccountabilityMatters trended for days. Even moderates joined in, urging honesty over theatrics. Her media tool, meant to fix the damage, only deepened it, each emotional defense sounding more like evasion than truth.
And what we have is a lot of hate speech against immigrants, against Muslims, against all kinds of people.
Sounds like she was dodging the question.
Again, it's astonishing to see Democrats try to make Congresswoman Omar out to be the victim here. She is not the victim. She needs to be responsible for her own rhetoric. And then the Democrat Party needs to take that a step further and denounce and condemn this. Instead, they are working overtime to defend her, to try to make her out to be an innocent victim.
One panelist calmly confronted Omar with her own past quotes, and she froze. The silence that followed was more powerful than any rebuttal. That single moment exploded online, with headlines declaring, "Ilhan Omar cornered on live TV." As backlash intensified, a few Democrats finally broke their silence. They didn't condemn her outright but sent a clear message between the lines: leadership demands self-awareness, and not every critique is hate. It was quiet distancing, but unmistakable.
We've heard about the comments that were made regarding anti-Semitism and anti-Israeli views, but I rise to add to the record that as a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee, I've sat there and heard the representative actually spew anti-American rhetoric as well. I've been in that committee room where the representative equates Israel and the United States to Hamas and the Taliban. Absolutely unacceptable for a member of that committee. I've also heard the representative equate that it is the United States' fault that there is turmoil.
Omar's bid to turn the controversy into a moral crusade backfired spectacularly, splintering her base and leaving her more politically alone than ever. Local voters who once championed her spoke with disappointment, calling her defensive and out of touch. The emotional bond that once fueled her rise was cracking. And as if to seal the moment, late-night comedians joined in, mocking her victim playbook and turning her crisis into national satire.
In Venezuela, that is not because of the oppressive socialist and communism that has spread throughout Central and South America. In Venezuela, at the hands of the Maduro and Hugo Chavez regimes. That is unacceptable. And as a New York representative, to hear the representative belittle, to try to diminish the worst terrorist attack on United States soil on September 11, 2001, as some people did something.
Viral sketches tore into Omar's habit of dodging questions and blaming others, transforming her from a figure of resilience into late-night comedy fodder. The laughter stung. It signaled that the public no longer viewed her as credible. Sensing blood in the water, her opponents moved fast. Campaign ads resurfaced her most emotional moments, splicing them with fact checks and biting commentary, painting a clear message. Omar sought sympathy, not accountability.
When she is anything but.
You know, to your point about Congresswoman Omar attacking the media after she was criticized for calling President Barack Obama, quote, a pretty face who got away with murder, I think she had tweeted and then deleted her tweet, claiming that the reporters were distorting her words. Your take on her deleting tweets?
More difficult, and this is especially sad given the makeup of her own district where there are large populations on both sides. She should be serving as a bridge builder, and as Friedman said, she's serving more as a divider.
I want to get your reaction to this. Democrat Senator Mazie Hirono was asked if she believed if Omar's comments were anti-Semitic.
You're exactly right. That is what she did. She released the actual conversation she had with this reporter and then deleted it. And I think this is another example of her trying to walk back what she actually says, and she perhaps doesn't fully comprehend.
In the end, Ilhan Omar's story became a cautionary tale about how quickly public sympathy can vanish when leaders overplay their hand. She tried to turn criticism into a personal attack, but the strategy imploded under its own weight. The world had seen the pattern, and this time, no one was fooled. Instead of gaining power through victimhood, Omar lost credibility, proving that in today's political world, accountability speaks louder than emotion.